We all know the three-way traffic signal as well as the gas mask, right? Well, these are two inventions created by the same person who actually created the first ever hair relaxer. Welcome back to the series, you guys, and reasons why we lost touch with our natural hair as we deep dive into our history to see where we lost touch with our roots. In this episode, let's travel back in time to the early 1900s, where we learn of a few inventions that shaped our history to what we know it to be today. Garrett Augustus Morgan was born in the year 1877. He grew up to begin his career as a handyman for a wealthy landowner. He was educated up until the 6th grade, but he was very, very intelligent in ways where he always observed the world to see what he needed to fix, where he can actually implement any type of help. After working for the landowner, he later began to work in different sewing factories, which gave him the idea of actually patenting his own sewing machine. The patent of the sewing machine was his first major success, which became his first self-made business. Now let's catapult ourselves into the hair relaxer, because now this is very, very interesting. The hair relaxer was made by accident, if you guys did not know. This was not something intentionally created by G.A. Morgan, but it has definitely made an impact in today's society. You see, there was a day in 1909 that Morgan happened to go to work. He noticed that a lot of the wool fabric was getting damaged and scorched from the needle that was used from the sewing machine because of the needle running at such high speeds. In order to fix the machine, he thought about experimenting with a chemical solution to lessen how rough the needle was into the fabric. Instead of washing his hands, this is just a way that I'm going to explain it. Instead of washing his hands, he accidentally wiped the solution on to the fabric before he left work that day. He came back the next day and later found that the woolen fabric was smooth. Wool we know to not be smooth. And what is wool compared to? Our hair. So he later found out that, this might actually be something great here. He decided to test out the chemical solution on an Airedale dog. Airedale dogs were known for their really curly hair. Once he applied the solution to the Airedale dog, all the hair of the dog was completely straightened. Now, this actually frightened the owner, in which the owner of the Airedale dog did not believe it was his pet. That's how major this solution was. Sewing machines back then had major issues with scorching items. After applying it to the dog's hair and seeing how spectacular it worked, he then decided to use it on his own head of hair, and to his surprise, it worked. He realized that this was something that can definitely change the history of African American hair. To be able to find a solution to help African Americans during that time was something commendable. From his creation of the first hair relaxer, which was called G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Cream, he created G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company. He used a lye-based formula, which we later found out caused a lot of side effects and health issues with the African American community in regards to using these lye-based hair relaxers. Of course, later on in time, we learned more scientific evidence and behind this, which then more manufacturers were able to change the formula to not damage our scalps as much as it did in the past. I want you guys to answer this for me. If G.A. Morgan never created the hair relaxer, do you think we would look at hair differently, natural hair differently today? Do you think if he would have never wiped his hands on that fabric, would he have created the first hair relaxer? Do you think most of us would actually deem natural hair to be beautiful? Do you think that natural hair would still be seen as unmanageable and ugly and very hard to maintain? Let's move on to another icon that definitely shaped our history to what it is today in the hair care world, Madame C.J. Walker. But before we get into Madame C.J. Walker, let's take it back to her predecessor. Her predecessor's name was Annie Malone. Annie Malone was actually the first self-made Black female millionaire. A lot of us know Madame C.J. Walker to be that, but I don't believe Annie Malone received all the recognition that she deserved. Annie and her sister began experimenting with homemade recipes to help with scalp issues, to be able to create hair care products as well as cosmetic products. In the 1890s, it was common for African American women to try and straighten their hair. Annie wanted to create products to be able to help us have a healthy scalp, no matter if we wear it straight, natural, or even curling our hair with the press and curl. Annie successfully created multiple hair care products and cosmetic products. She took these products to the World's Fair in St. Louis, which Madame C.J. Walker was actually one of her representatives. Madame C.J. Walker worked for her for about 2 years before they went to the fair. And before the fair, Madame C.J. Walker also was having some scalp issues, which she in turn was trying to develop a formula to help with her scalp issues. This was all during the time she was working for Annie Malone. Annie Malone had major success from the World's Fair in St. Louis, which then in turn made her move her factory to St. Louis. She wanted to expand her business and sell her products nationally and globally. But there is a problem. The problem came when she realized that none of her products were protected under copyright. This unfortunately gave Madame C.J. Walker the bright idea to begin to develop her own products under Annie Malone's company name. Once she found out that Madame C.J. Walker was selling her own products underneath her company, it started a little friction in between the two women. The relationship did suffer due to that. Now, many would say, well, it was Annie's fault for not getting copyright protection over her products, but who was there before her to tell her this is how it should be done? This is why, you guys, it's always best to get your products and get your company protected under copyright, so nothing like this can ever happen to you. Madame C.J. Walker ended up walking away from Malone's company to begin her own company and began to sell her first very successful product, which was a hair grower. Moving on to Madame C.J. Walker, she did work her way up to the top. Working as a washerwoman for almost 10 years, she began experimenting on her own hair to cure her scalp disease, an infection that caused baldness. Madame C.J. Walker also took a lot of notes from a pharmacist, taught her a little bit about chemistry and how that plays in turn with our natural hair and our scalp. She learned basic chemistry, which allowed her to find a cure for her baldness and dandruff. She was also very successful at creating other hygiene products because of the fact that plumbing was an issue at the time. When we think about both of these women and Garrett Augustus Morgan, we have to always remember that these people played a huge role into where we are today with our natural hair. We have to appreciate the facts of understanding where things come from, how they were created, and how they shaped our history today. From Garrett Augustus Morgan to Annie Malone to Madame C.J. Walker, we need to thank them for their revolutionary, iconic achievements. The inventions that they created were something that our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, and our great-great-great-grandmothers all know. Understanding our history is what we need to do in order to teach our daughters what they need to know. We have to teach our daughters that natural hair care is something that has always been uplifted in the Black community. But we've lost our way with the many different things that we've created that makes our natural hair not to be seen as beautiful as other hair types. So let's appreciate those who came before us and taught us some of the things that we know today. But let's not repeat history. Let's remake it. From learning about our history, we can learn how to teach our daughters today everything they need to know about their natural hair, how to love it, how to take care of it, how to grow it, and how to manage it.